Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the WGL EU Season 4 Match Week 9. We are back with some more tank action. Obviously, I am Norrin Pansy Scott, your host and commentator for this evening. I'll be joined by, Laughter WOT. I hate saying Laughter WOT because why did you add WOT on the end?
Because Laughter was taken, unfortunately.
That's upsetting.
That's why I had to do it. I'm gutted about that.
That is quite upsetting. We'll try and work on that. Wargaming, help the guy out.
Twitter
but still,
helped me.
Twitter!
My name in World of Tanks is just Laughter, but Twitter is the problem.
There's nothing funny about this, alright? It's no laughing matter. And we are obviously joined as well by the beautiful Melly, who'll be doing our social media and keeping you guys up to date on all things tanks while the show rolls on. But we do have some great games coming up for you guys today. But before we get to that, because there was such an upset during the last Playday show, I think we have to look back prior to that to kind of get our minds into what we're seeing so far into this season, because we're getting towards the later half of it now. But prior to all this happening, there was a hell of a lot of action that we saw building to this moment. So guys, let's get that video rolling of a recap of the previous play weeks. Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the WGL EU Season 4 Match Week 8. He's got to land this shot pretty damn quickly. He does put out Schnitzel, 1 second left. He might have just hit that. I don't think he did. No, he didn't. He missed it. Unbelievable. And Woosa will pick up the map. Wow. He's still in a great spot here. And these guys are just waiting on that reload. Whoever gets it first will be getting these kills. And Jack falls to the hands of Commandante. Sensei not able to make the reply. Nice little double from Commandante. QQ comes in, saves him from Juhu, but at the same time, QQ takes one. Shock takes another. They are pretty much all one-shots here. Now they are. Commandante comes around, gets another. Can he find any more? There is a reply. They are making a stand out of this. The HP is just not good enough. LD Nexus finds object. With money, still alive, but for more, how long? Going fast, because now here comes message. It's a 2v2, now a 3v2. It's a 2v1 again. Schnitzel is the last man standing up on this hill. Pretty much for Woosa, and he's going to be caught in the heels. The two T-32s are coming in to do some real damage, and look at that. Schnitzel can do nothing. Finally back up and running. Might just about make away, but he doesn't. Snake, I think, catches him in the end. Commandante moves in. Jack next on the chopping block. One more shell will do the job towards him. And, well, I don't think he's going to escape this one at all. They're being flooded by the Woosa side. And this is not looking good. Jack goes down. Kirex joins him. And the tentative Leprechauns have fumbled again. And Woosa walk away with another map under their belt. Schnitzel on the cross, doesn't land the shot. He takes a lot of the damage, but can they find a takedown? You know, oh my word, the Leprechauns back-to-back kills coming through. Commandante finally takes down Yuhu, but this is not looking too pretty so far for Woosa either. Terrastan does find Jack, and now Message trying to make these shells count, but Terrastan is low. He's on fire, he's burning, but Commandante finds Message first. The next target, Wilkie, is out on a limb. This could be a mistake, but he's just keeping the attention away, and look at the other three. Moving in, Sompa and Morning Wolf. This is brilliant stuff from Freefall. Burger is going to be made into a hunk of metal now. He's got nothing to do but die. Down to 195 HP. And Krug's yet to be able to push in. You can see Lucas coming around on the other side. These guys are laying down the fire as best they can. Veko and Elian backing each other up. Hyber is down to nothing, but Veko's taking down Raging Potato. There's the reply, though. Lucas finds Hyber, and there's the counter push beginning. EPS making their move towards the three players out on their own, and Kazda crew are falling like flies. Lucas played his role, but now Crux in a world of trouble, surrounded, being beaten black and blue by Yankees and New Mod Show.
Both have the reload, but Palauda and Lucas Yisti still trying to do something against Kazna.
Oh, here we go. Veko's taking a couple. Yankees takes down Paluda. Veko goes. Lucas comes through. And this looks like EPS could do this. One man now stands all on his own. Elian, 2 seconds left. It's too little, too late for EPS. They could not find him in time, and can you believe it? And what a great little bit of a recap. We've seen some real struggles in that, and I don't think that even depicts what we saw really in the very last playday of Match Week 8, because there are 2 playdays within the week, obviously. You know, that had a couple of upsets, you know, Kazna struggling a little, but the playday that followed that was unbelievable to watch. How many upsets did we see in that one? I think, you know, a good couple of teams have had a rude awakening, and I think we can see that reflected in the rankings in just a second, but, you know, you were there as well, you know, you used to play this game, seeing some very good teams fumbling under pressure it was a bit of a sight to be seen.
Evil Panel Squad, just looking so strong. We saw in that recap they did well against Kazanakru, and they did spectacularly against School Bus, the Russian team. Most considered to be a little bit weak at the start of the season, but for now we're in match week 9. They really have to start getting themselves into gear because Evil Panel Squad look absolutely unstoppable. So that for me was the biggest upset of that week. Yeah,
and I think we can have a little look at the rankings and see how much your point stands now, because School Bus have now slipped down to that 4th place. EPS taking their position and get themselves in that top 3. Now let's ignore Virtus Pro because they're so far ahead of everyone else right now. 21 points. Closest near them is on 16. It's a bit of a one-sided show in that aspect, but outside of that, what's going on with the rest of the ranking here?
Denali Sports losing to Cplay. Also in the previous match days, that was one of the other upsets we saw. That's pushed Denali even further down the leaderboards, now sitting in 8th place. Cplay making their way up again after a very rocky start, to say the least, of the season. But, only 5 points between 5th and 10th place. It's not impossible to do, considering you get 3 points for a win. TCM Gaming losing against Virtus Pro didn't really do much to their rankings, but they have to be careful. They actually do have to start winning if they want to be sticking in that top half of the rankings.
And it's kind of crazy thinking Denial is now on the same points as Woosa. That's not something I expected to see at the very start of this season, both tying on around 7 points there. And we could actually see Woosa now taking their place if they can beat Cplay. And that's obviously, in today's game, something we can start talking about in just a second, because there's a lot more changes that could happen if it all goes, specific ways, let's say. And you will see those matchups right about now, because actually, as I said, this could be even worse for Denial now, because these guys are now pretty much depending on what happens in that first matchup. They're not playing in this play day. They'll probably be on Thursday, I can imagine. But if Woosa pick up the victory over Cplay here, they'll overtake, Denial Esports, who coming into the season I thought, right, they're going to be a great team in this. They'll do well. No, they didn't. And following that, we've got Isuba up against School Bus. School Bus coming off a loss. Hopefully they can pull themselves back together. And in the end game, the Leprechauns are in trouble.
The Leprechauns, I didn't actually expect them to do that well. They have actually surprised me a lot. They've got quite a few good results, but I don't think they can be too unhappy with how the season's gone for them.
No, they've come in and done
okay.
well.
We never expect them to get any kind of wins here. We've seen teams like them who just formed before the season and managed to qualify just about by the skin of their teeth. And to get a few wins, they can be happy with that. It's really starting to look into Season 5, potentially Season 6 if they don't get relegated, for where they actually start to get the wins down and where they become a team that's really put together. But I can say, unfortunately, Muppety has to go to the army. In Finland you have conscription still, and he's going to be leaving us for about half a year, 6 months. So that's going to be a big blow for Dream Leprechauns for sure. But they need to go through the hard times before they see the good.
It's a very good point. And I swear to God, every Finnish team in esports has always come to that point where about 3 of their members are like, guys, we got to go army. It's just like,
imagine how good they could be esports if none of them had to go to the
army. They'd be like
army.
the better Sweden, basically. But it's just not to be. But that aside, your predictions on the first game coming up, what are your thoughts on this one?
I honestly think it's going to be very close. Cplay have been looking like they're really strong.
Yes.
Woosa, struggling for sure. 2 wins for Cplay at the moment. I think they're going to beat Woosa. Considering they beat Denial, yes, they've been having a rocky season, but Denial's still a very good team, and Woosa isn't at the moment.
Well, that's his thoughts, and obviously we want to help you out at home as much as possible, because there's a lovely lady waiting in the wings to tell you guys how to get involved with us here in the studio, and it's all about them getting their votes in and getting involved on Facebook and Twitter, isn't it?
Exactly. Just head over to facebook.com/WGLEU, and I will put up a poll in a few minutes, and where you can vote for your favorite team or the favorite team in this matchup, so just to see what you guys at home are thinking. And of course you can win bonus codes by simply predicting the exact scoreline of this very matchup in the comment section below. So just guess how the match will go, if it's a 3-0 or 3-2 or 3-1. I'm not going to say anything since it won't happen, just the opposite, as I learned the last match day. But yeah, that's pretty much all. Also get involved on Twitter, of course. Just simply tweet us everything what's on your mind. If you want to hand in your prediction via Twitter, that's absolutely okay. Just use hashtag WGLEU to make sure that I can see your tweet. And if you want to share something nice with us, like funny fan arts, I have no idea. Something, whatever is on your mind. I know we had some accidents with that. You can't stop smirking laughter.
It was a dangerous sentence. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, fan art. It's awesome. So we love seeing stuff from you. We love hearing from you. So tweet us everything. Just use the hashtag WGLEU. And that's how you can get involved. And of course, I will keep you updated during the matches, even if you can't watch the stream. I will write live updates on Twitter. So follow at WGLEU, of course, if you haven't already. And you will get live updates during the matches.
Well, you've been told, pretty much. Go and do it, otherwise Melly will be after you. You don't want that. She can take out horses, let alone people. So, let's have a little closer look at the first game coming up, because we've given you a lot of the background towards it, all the points behind it, but this is what matters. The players within these teams. These guys define the outcome, and who do we need to be keeping our eyes on right now?
Cplay, Nervax has definitely stepped up to the plate. He's been absolutely on point, sitting actually quite high up that leader tables, actually overtaking Ruster.
That's impressive as well.
It's very impressive for him. He's just being absolutely fantastic at the moment. I think for him, he's growing into his potential, which is a really good thing to see. And Woosa, Laura Lanathal's been doing okay, FKK Schnitzel. I think one thing Woosa has going for them is they don't have that one standout player. They're actually quite well balanced. But whereas in Cplay you have one player kind of filling himself and his potential, I think Woosa, they all need to grow to that point where they can actually fill their potential, if you get my drift. So Woosa doesn't have a standout player, but still they are a team that can synergize very well. They beat Lucky Karaki, so they can be good.
Yeah, certainly something to keep in mind there between these two. And the first map being Ensk, I'm curious to see how these guys both do on a city-based map. I don't feel one team has proven to me they're substantially stronger on city or open maps just yet. No. I think I'm still getting used to these guys, obviously. We haven't really seen too much of these two. Obviously, we've seen different forms of them. We know some of these players for some time, but to me, it's just kind of getting used to what they're playing like, and if there's any really defining moments. Who do you feel is maybe the stronger, heavier tank team? You know, it's a city map essentially, so you can kind of pin it to that.
I don't think either of them are particularly good on city maps.
Yeah.
I have to say, Mines and Ruenberg is where it really stops. I would say for them, for this matchup, it's definitely going to be Cplay who's better here.
Well, that's his prediction. Make sure you get yours through to Melly, because we are ready for that first map, Ensk. So welcome to the first map. In the north, in blue, will be Woosa. In the south, in red, it's Cplay. And well, as promised, it will be Ensk. But what sort of start are they going for here?
Looks like Woosa are going for a pretty standard start. We often see from the north a couple of tanks trying to look for the cross to get some damage, and then a lot of them going towards the city, towards the right, with the tier 1s. Stefan Commandant are going to be taking the cross on, and obviously FKK Schnitzel, because he got the best spawn, will just be on this other side there. And for Woosa, this could actually work, because they are also on the cross. That music scared me a lot, I'm not going to lie, but Woosa getting spotted out Cplay getting spotted out very early on. That could be dangerous for them, as Woosa knows exactly what's happening and what exactly they can do.
Yeah, indeed. Wow, that was something unique. But still, as you said, it's all about that cross now. Already Traverse gets a little bit of a shot there, but nothing too much done. And we are seeing finally Cplay getting into position. Dead Zone and Hacky working their way up down that 7 to 8 line to kill through Nervax down the 6 line in those IS3. Something will become a little common to see, but it's what Woosa's up to that kind of surprises me. This could catch them out. It's a little bit of a interesting affair, and I'm used to seeing the teams in the north starting to make the move more down those railroad lines and starting to challenge down towards the south, but at the moment seems to be Cplay want to make a little more of the move here. We know that Woosa can be a passive team at times. It may not be their best characteristic, but it's certainly something that they do work with every now and then. And Nervax at the moment the furthest man forward in the IS3, but not really spotted out too much just yet.
This is actually pretty nice from Cplay. They got themselves over towards the right side. They got all spotted. Okay, so Woosa knows where they are. But at the same time, they're in actually an effective position, and Woosa didn't do any damage to them. That's basically the biggest point. As long as they don't get damage on the cross and they do end up getting towards the green zone and obviously that railroad, then they can be pretty safe. they're the only team to actually use the central area. No one else does, apart from the north, of course. A lot of teams, for instance, Evil Panda Squad, Virtus Pro, do head along those train lines. But from the south, it's generally not an accepted tactic, but it does work as long as the other team doesn't, get your flanks. We've seen before a team coming from the north and coming from the south. They find that one weak tank and they exploit it 100%, take it down, and then it's really just a matter of working your way through the rest of the team to actually win it. And that's the danger for Cplay. Stefan's got himself in the back, in the front, or the back, depends on your perspective. And you can see FKK Schnitzel's right in the back towards the cap of Cplay. Stefan taking a couple of shells as well. Ruster trying to respond with some of his own. Doesn't manage to connect any of those so far.
No, but at the moment we are seeing Dead Zone working his way up here. He's the furthest forward. The Lux has found Dr. Tour, but it's only a tier 1 really being affected at the moment, and the Dead Zone has got himself quite far forward, so I'll be interested to see what he can make out of this play. At the moment, all the opposition is kind of focused around that C to D line, getting themselves tucked into there, but still. Cplay testing out. I'm going to look through. But they aren't fully committing, let's be serious here. They're going up and down these railroads, but they are fairly safe unless they get flanked on the backside, I can imagine, which I don't think they're going to be able to be too worried about just yet. Siege is fairly close. That might mean a little bit of a retraction coming out from these guys.
Yeah, they're just they're kind of just making sure that they don't get caught out. They're going backwards and forwards and reinforcing each other where they think it's necessary, and that's the most important point for Cplay, because it's so easy to go, okay, if we all focus here, because Woosa's got a tank there, we'll just actually all roll in at the same time and try and take it out. And if you do that, you basically leave one vulnerability in your flank. If that's from behind or from your right, in this case, because you can actually get shot through and below the train carts. But I think for now, it's really up to WUSA of what to do, and their options are pretty limited. I think Ensk, like I would say Prokhorovka, it's actually very hard to cap successfully. We've seen Virtus Pro do it against Evil Panda Squad, but in general it's not an accepted tactic because the team that's capping has less cover than the team that's actually defending. And as long as the team that's defending is in the kind of a decent position, they usually can thwart that cap. So for Woosa, really the only option is to actually go for the engagement. You can see 3 tanks there, Dekilzo, Nervax, Ruster, all sitting up along. And really, Trevor's Hacky in the Dead Zone can't actually support them 3. So it would just be a matter of Woosa coming around from the side in as sneaky and stealthy a fashion as possible, so that CPA can't actually get themselves into a good position. But Stefan gets punished there, but Dekilzo, 333 damage, not the most he could have taken. A second shell actually landing, this time for Nervax, 402 off, and that's not what Woosa wants. They want to be able to collapse onto Cplay with as much HP as possible.
Yeah, and these two IS-3s have been waiting for these guys to peek out here. You can see the fire does start coming down towards the north of this map. And it's the likes of LD Nexus, QQ, and Schnitzel finding the Dead Zone out on his own, which is probably a bit of a mistake from him more than anything, being out here on a bit of a limb. He has some support from Ruster, Dekilzo, or Nervax, but it could be troublesome if they do make a full committed move. Now, already Stefan being that low, it's kind of evened up the score here, especially in HP at least. So I'm curious to see if they make a commitment off the back of this. It could be risky, as Nervax and Dekilzo are still pretty comfortable on HP. They've barely taken a shot. I don't think they've taken any damage just yet. So at the moment, bit of a tentative one coming out from Woosa. Don't want to fully commit, but Dekilzo finally takes 1 shell, gets tracked, and maybe a little bit of sloppy play then going for a secondary peek, playing a little bit greedy there.
I love that play from Stefan. He's on half HP and he's still going for the damage. You see play like this from the likes of Elian, Breakneck. They're never thinking about the damage they've taken. They're always just thinking about the damage they can do. And as long as they don't actually overcommit to a situation, they can kind of feel comfortable. Ruster getting taken down very low, this time by FKK Schnitzel from the side, as Nervax was distracted there by Stefan. It's all very calculated for them. Ruster is looking for a little bit of a reply, and he has just come off reload, so he should be able to respond with some damage of his own. But FKK Schnitzel, at the moment, doing a fantastic job. And at this point in time, I have to say, just by looking at the damage, Woosa is a little bit ahead.
Yeah, but Schnitzel has to be a little careful. Hacky is over towards the side, and that fire will be coming in thick and fast if he's not too careful with that position. Dekilzo now going to use himself almost as a meat shield in front of Ruster, who is fairly low. He's down to 474, so taking a big bit of damage. And still, Nervax towards the north side, trying to keep eyes on, making sure they can't be flanked round this corner. But Schnitzel now in that 1v1 with the kills. We're seeing Nervax and LD Nexus up at the top. The fire now coming in between them. LD Nexus gets held in place for a couple of seconds, but manages to get away, get into some cover. But this is going to get very close very soon. 3 minutes left. Who's in the better position here?
WUSA are really now on the back foot a little bit, but because they can actually surround Cplay, they can still win this one. Nervax taking another big shell.
Yeah, Stefan again doing this great smart work. He's just keeping Nervax busy. Nervax so focused on what's happening down the other end of this line. He's kind of missing the action. And you can see Nervax now held in. Ruster has taken down Schnitzel. But in the meantime, this is all going down in separate areas. This takes a lot of focused communication coming out. And Nexus, this is not looking good for Cplay here.
Commandante now receiving another 592 off. A lot of damage going their way. Though Cplay have lost one, that's Nervax. They still have more tanks with more HP. We've got the same amount of tanks, but they've got more HP to play around with. But Commandante is trying to alleviate that.
Oh, he's in trouble though. There's 3 tanks moving in. It may be Treves, but Dekilzor is doing the job by himself. Seashra on the back, trying to keep eyes on, but Dekilzor needs to land one more shell towards him. And I don't think Commandante has the shells to make any more damage done. Surely not. Actually, he does. Dekilzor gets a bit, but finally takes him down. Hacky had to come back and support, leaving one man on his own. The Dead Zone is pretty much living up to that name if he's not careful. He could have been folded in on by these 3 players quite easily, but we are seeing Stefan making a move down the center of this railroad, looking for these guys. Ruster is low, Dekilzor is low. Ruster's down on 105, an easy one shot, and the Dead Zone caught in the back of those heels. He's going to be trying to get away, trying to avoid these shots. QQ coming around on the flank, but now Hacky's low, Dekilzor low, Ruster low, the Dead Zone low. Cplay are now in trouble. They need to be really damn careful here.
Ooh, Ruster now receiving another shell. I think that was actually from a tier 1 Cunningham. Seek is doing a great job just keeping the pressure onto Cplay in terms of spotting. Hacky will probably now remove him. We've got 1 minute and 18 seconds left on this clock, and well, Cplay have more tanks with damage dealing tanks, but also at the same time, QQ still has 1.1 HP to 1.1k HP to play with, and that's the real risk for Cplay. If he can get into the game, which he is, on the flank, it's going to be very dangerous times. I think he still has 5 shells left. He left back on the Dead Zone because he knew he can go for the kill, but the Dead Zone, brilliant work from the side.
Yeah, keeping tabs on that even when the pressure was coming on. He knew where the weakness was and he's trying to cover it with himself there. He did have the most HP, maybe barring Hacky there, but nice positioning, trying to even that battlefield up a little by getting one towards QQ. So now leaving it in a 4v3, but looking at the HP pool left on towards Cplay, I'm surprised Woosa didn't make a move towards this.
Well, the Nexus trying to find another one. Doesn't land it, nor does Ruster though, so he gets away by the absolute skin of his teeth, having to reverse, go forwards. He's got to wait for another 10 seconds before he has another opportunity. 22 seconds left for one of these 2 teams to take a win. I don't think they are going to go for it. So it looks like it's going to be a draw, but he was back and forwards and a little bit sketchy for both of them at some point. Stefan receiving a shell there, and he's going to receive a couple.
Yeah, Hacky is going to town right now. He does do the job as well, but with 5 seconds left, QQ still on around 800 HP. LD Nexus probably turtled down somewhere. It will be a draw out on the first game, but we can talk through what we feel happened then, because it was very close, and both teams kind of did their own very unique thing. So from the very start, it seemed that Cplay was a little more aggressive, or at least using the map a little more. They were happy going up and down that railroad, trying to put the players into the right positions. But I think it was Stefan and Schnitzel who did a phenomenal job of just keeping them really locked down at the very start.
Yeah, he was very, very instrumental to the general play style of Cplay there. But, you know, basically Cplay's tactic revolves around the fact that they're cutting the map in half, but at the same time, they're basically offering themselves up to the other team, and they're saying, you know, we're vulnerable, so try and exploit us. And then when you try and exploit us, we'll come back with you with more damage. It works to a point. Dangerous. And it was working with Cplay there because they had more tanks and WUSA only had 2. But the problem is it also takes more time because you're basically giving the other team the opportunity to dictate the style of play and the pace of play, which is very risky when you have a time limit on your game. I think another 2 minutes, or maybe 1.5 minutes, we'd have seen Cplay win that one, but WUSA could just retract back. They had plenty of the map and basically draw it out and kind of dictate where the Cplay guys want to push and where they want to defend and attack. So a good move, but at the same time, you never really want to be giving that advantage away if you want to actually go for the win. But still, I think they can be pretty happy with that one. And even if it was a draw, in their minds, they were the winners.
Yeah, so you said that they're both a little weak on the city maps. They're probably not the best teams in the world. One of the heavy tanks maybe just being not the biggest plus for them. Next map being Himmelsdorf. Are we going to see something similar here with the kind of slightly cautious moves, maybe not full commitments, but, you know, testing the waters a little bit throughout this one?
I think Cplay have got better and better on Himmelsdorf.
Okay.
I don't like Ruhenberg or Entz that much. We saw then kind of questionable in my opinion. But since their loss to Kazanakru, I think they've learned a lot of lessons and they can be pretty happy. But at the same time, if Woosa has anything, it's heavy tank players. Albeit not particularly good on big maps like this on Himmelsdorf, but they can play on maps like Mines when they use the T-32s, for instance. Which is going to make it a little bit more hard for Cplay to win it. As I say 100 times before, when you play well as tanks, you need to be good at Himmelsdorf before you get good at any other map. It's kind of, you get all your bases covered there. So I think Woosa have that at least in the bag, which is going to make it a little bit tricky, as I said, for Cplay. But in general, what I want to see from Cplay is more innovation from their part. You can see that they've, apart from on Ruhenberg, on Entz, that they copy a lot of the tactics from the other teams, which is maybe good against Woosa, who I'm not sure, I'm only speculating, doesn't do all the best preparation for their matches upcoming. That's just from what I've seen from them so far.
I think it's a fair statement.
So it might work against them when Woosa's not actually looking, but against, you know, the top teams, the top 5, the top 6 teams, it's going to be very hard for them to win, because they're basically using their own tactics against them, which doesn't work.
No, and obviously the teams who come up with these obviously know the flaws in them as well. You know, if you do create a tactic in any game, you always know there's a downside to it somewhere, and they'll be well aware of it. So if they find out another team is using something very similar to theirs, they'll know how to exploit it within an instant. To be like, well, okay, they're putting these 3 tanks here. We know the weakness to this is X, Y, and Z. Go ahead and do it. It is one of the downfalls of trying to use other team strategies. There is a reason that generally teams make them. It's because it works with their players as well. Not every team can completely replicate, you know, what another player does. So you can't go, okay, well, you go and play where Applewell does and get 3 to 4 kills a game. That's the tactic. It doesn't quite work the same way. And you can say the same for any team. You can't just, you know, copy and paste strategy sometimes. It's got to be manipulated into your own thing. But we'll have to see how this comes down. As you said, Himmelsdorf coming up in a second. We are seeing the tank lineups coming in. I'm not seeing too many surprises. Cplay's got a lot of 5100s though so far.
Yeah, they've picked up a quadruple 5100 lineup, 4 5100s, of course. Alongside the Killser in the IS-3, good to see that he's sticking in the heavy tanks, the heavier of the heavy tanks, and that Russian tier 8. So, going to be interesting. They've picked this one up before. It didn't work because they didn't have enough time, but it's pretty strong.
Well, I think we are almost ready for that second map, so let's get that video rolling for Himmelsdorf. And welcome into battle number 2. It is Winter Himmelsdorf, and in the south in blue it's Woosa. In the north in red it's Cplay, and we're going to see if anyone can really edge ahead. We see very few draws coming out of Himmelsdorf so far. It's generally been quite an action-packed map, but what are we seeing so far here?
Well, Woosa's picked up the standard lineup, 3 5100, 2 IS-3s, so the only unusual thing is that LD Nexus in the IS-3 is going to be heading up the hill, and in general that's what Woosa's tactic is. Send all their heavy tanks, all their combat tanks up towards that hill and just let the T1s kind of cover the rest of the map, which is not a particularly big blanket coverage, but they do get all the necessary angles spotted, which is the most important thing. Cplay with a little bit of a strange tactic here, actually. I said they have to innovate if they want to be a top team, and it looks like they are. Treves and Dr. Tour, the 2 wins going forwards. The dead zone alongside with them. So basically what Cplay wants to do is actually go for a cap win here. Basically put the tier 1s in the cap, use Haki and Treves to basically block them off, and that would be very interesting if they can. I mean, the dead zone and Haki block them off the 2 5100s, put the 2 tier 1s behind and go for a quick win. And honestly, that's going to work. It's going to work 100%. They've seen what Woosa does with most of their lineups on Himmelsdorf, push them all up the hill, And without anything from Woosa defending apart from their tier 1s, the Killzone now does it. It's going to be a late to the party kind of situation for Woosa. You can see them all now heading back down again, and Cplay is going to basically cut them off down the 8 line, and that's going to make it very difficult indeed for this cap to be reset. But they are just about back in time, but is Cplay in the right positions to deal with this?
Well, let's find out. Let's have a little look at what we're seeing. Ruster was the one coming through that 8 line. Didn't quite get there in time. Nervax and Killzone splitting through the G line. And the others, the 5100s, as you can see, are right in that cap circle, covering off the 2 tier 1s and already dealing a great deal of damage towards Stefan. So it's pretty much a fallback plan. These two are taking the massive amount of shells. The Killzone and Nervax are holding the push through. And if they can keep them like this will go very, very well for Cplay. The Killzone now joins in. There will have to be a big push coming through from Cplay, and here it comes. 4 players moving forward. Come on, Dante moving in towards the battle. This is going to go down right here, right now. 10 seconds left on that cap. There needs to be a reset very soon. QQ's coming in for it. Hacky finds Stefan. QQ must land this shot. 2 seconds left. He has 1 second. He lands the shell. Just about resetting it. But is it too little too late? The clock is once again in action. We are seeing it now being pushed forward from Woosa, but QQ's gone low. Schnitzel still up, but LD Nexus next target. The Killzone does not have the shells to do it, but someone in his team must. Surely one of them thought about this one. The Killzone now moving and needs to land this shell. He's been battled for this by LD Nexus, but you can see in the other side the cap did start earlier on. The Killzone still needs to land this shell. They're on their way back there right now, but can the Killzone make the shell count? 1v1. He needs to take him down pretty fast, and finally the job's done. It's all about that tier 1 play. Can they out-time that tier 1 who's doing the job? Schnitzel already got back. The dead zone on the way back. This is the base race we were waiting for.
FKK Schnitzel's probably reloading. Ruster isn't bounces off the back of that 5100s. Only about 20 millimeters of armor, and FKK Schnitzel just chasing around Ruster, and he's really going to have to be careful because I think he's off reload.
Yeah, but the smart play came from the dead zone, focusing out the tier 1, and now Schnitzel takes down Ruster. 9 seconds on the cap. Schnitzel is nowhere to be found. 1v1 can go down all it want. He cannot get back in time. Cplay with a phenomenal strategy. They clean up the board, they take the cap, and they win the map. Perfectly done then by them. I love that play. I like the way they even, kept the Killzone busy, send the other 5100 around, pick up the tier 1 just to make sure there was no cap happening. It looked a little sloppy, but I like the intuition just to go for it straight away.
They basically had 3 things going for them then. First of all, they knew what Woosa was going to do before they even started the map. Before they even pressed battle, they already knew exactly what Woosa was going to do. Send everything up towards the hill, or at least send almost everything up the hill.
Maybe one tank, down the 8 line.
Yeah, maybe one tank up the 8 line. Exactly. The second thing they did very well is that they didn't put everything in, all their eggs in one basket. They said, okay, we're going to go for the cap. That's the first plan. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work, we're going to do enough damage that basically the cap won't be necessary anymore, which happened. Because Woosa went straight for the cap. They had to try and reset it. They managed to do it just within a fraction of a second before it went the exclamation mark on the 100%. But they were like, cool story, bro. We still got all of our tanks alive. You've lost 2 trying to stop this cap, and we're going to squash you. And then the dead zone and Ruster just getting back in those 5100s to clear up the tier 1s. And for FKK Schnitzel, he did a good job, I think. But
he certainly tried.
It was too little too late for him. He was pretty much up against the whole of Cplay. So, Cplay looking for a lot of research, and it's working for them.
I like that play. I like teams that know how to go for the caps on maps where it's a possibility. I actually love that. It's quite rare we see that. We've seen it coming into effect on larger, more open maps, as I feel teams know that there's a little bit of teams don't like going for the resets because they put themselves out in open position. So it's becoming a little bit of a tit for tat to draw maybe tanks out to the open in the bigger maps. But I love it when there's a full strategy behind it on those close quarters city maps. And we saw it in perfect effect. When you follow the common trend, like Woosa is of just shoving tanks up that hill, which you saw a couple of other teams doing, even the likes of Kazna to some extent, and some of the top teams, squad. EPS especially, there are downsides to this, and we've seen it catch out Kazna, we've seen it catch out EPS, and now it's called out Woosa. I don't feel as though that hill stack will be something in play too many match days down the line if it keeps being worked out like this, because you can literally go, alright, from the very start, we'll send that one guy down the 8 line, screw the hill, and all of us just go powering it down the 1-3 line, and it works. And it worked very nicely for them. But next map coming up is going to be Cliff, so a completely different kind of ordeal here. Mm-hmm. It's not your city map in any way, shape, or form. It has kind of two gears. It's either the push, the rush maybe from the south, I think we generally see it coming into effect, or it's a slower, more cautious play that could evolve into a kind of brawl towards the end. What do you think we're going to get here?
I think we'll see a quicker gameplay. Cplay have been actually quite impressive on Cliff of late. They had a couple of good results, had a couple of bad results, but generally they've been okay. I think basically Cliff comes down to, as you said, the middle rush. And then it's about spotting and it's about knowing what the other team is doing, because as soon as you know that you're 5 versus 4, we've seen this a lot, then you just push in across the middle. But that middle area is still what I'm talking about. It's the most common place for everyone to go. But it's all about the spotting. So I think the tier 1s are going to be very pivotal. Maybe you're going to see one of those Lighthouse Island flanks. We've seen a couple of them. Cancer Crew tried it, didn't work. But they obviously need to look back at that, and I think a lot of teams can see the flaw pretty obviously. So it does work as a tactic, it just needs to be played correctly. But maybe the Lux and Woosa in general in the tier 1s will be the most pivotal players. Looking at the lineups for Woosa, Cplay, MX1390, WT69, double tier 1, so doesn't look too slow, but then again it's Cliff, so
you never know.
You can't really pick a slow lineup, you have to pick aggressive lineup to really win this one. And Cplay with a double T69, double AMX1390, and Object 146, 416 even. So looking like a Virtus Pro lineup actually, which has actually worked for them, but Virtus Pro is kind of a team on their own, where I think Virtus Pro could take another tier 1 and still win. Probably.
And they'd probably make it look like the best tactic in the world that everyone should probably use. It'd just be like, why have we not always used 3 tier 1s? But that's Virtus Pro. But still, I'd like to see the 416 back in play. I was actually quite a fan of it before when it was in rotation a little more, and especially the open map. So looking forward to seeing it here. I hope we can see it maybe finding its place, replacing probably the 1390, I can imagine, from one side to the other. So I'm hoping we see it actually in effect, because I don't think even in Virtus Pro's hand we saw it flourish. We saw it do okay, but no better than maybe a 1390 would do. I don't think there was any defining factor. But we'll have to wait and find out, because the next map is going to be the one and only Cliff. And welcome to battle number 3. It is time to roll out, and in the south in blue it will be Woosa facing off against Cplay in the north in red with that 1-0 advantage so far. So certainly great performance. Looking to see what they can do here, and is there any surprises with the tank lineups? Barring that 416.
Yeah, apart from the 416, that's the only thorn in the side there. But no, everything else is pretty normal. And it looks like we're having a normal tactic as well from at least Woosa's side, pushing up in towards the middle. Obviously, the dead zone, because he is playing the 416, is kind of going to go into a lot more defensive position, where basically Virtus Pro played it right in the back with the bush kind of there, so he can basically snipe out the M63, which is the gun sported on the 416, about 320 average damage, good penetration as well. So he can be pretty happy when he does connect a few shell. Nervax, though, does receive the first one. That's from the FKK Schnitzel, and we see this time and time again. From the south, you have the advantage in the early aggression, but as soon as the game starts rolling on and the time starts going down, then that's when the north really, really does find its form.
And I want to see if Woosa's going to push here. Woosa, known for being quite the passive side, have the opportunity. They've landed 2 of the opening shells here, taking Ruster and Nervax fairly low. The only issue could maybe be the dead zone out in the back there in that 416, but still, I want to see it being beyond their reach. They've got, the tanks in the right position to do so. Is that a possibility with these guys here?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's just about finding the angle, and you don't ever want to overextend in a situation like this. If you overextend, then you just get punished, and basically you can end up, you could take Russ down to about 10 HP, but he would still live, and you would all be dead. There's no real point in risking it that much. But FKK Schnitzel does look like he's trying to get around back towards LD Nexus there. I'm not exactly sure what his plan is. He seems to be trying to take down some trees, but maybe looking for in case any flank comes from Cplay from the right. But it still doesn't make any sense, because the spots are pretty prevalent.
He just wants to roll around, right? He's having a good time. Leave him alone. God. So mean. He's just enjoying the map.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know
why he's doing it.
No, I have no idea, to be honest. But he's got his reasons, I guess.
We'll have to ask him afterwards, why were you just driving around in the beautiful foliage?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty special from him. But FKK Schnitzel does finally find some aim, heads down towards the Lux, and he's going to probably drive up and join QQ in this AMX 3090. So at least some play coming out from Woosa. And I really have to say it, from the north, you do have a disadvantage compared to the south and Cliff. It's pretty hard to win. But you do have one thing, and that's basically the ability to flank a lot quicker. You have less obstacles to deal with, and you can just run back to your cap or get around on the side very easily. But the other team just kind of dictate that state of play, and that's going to be the hard thing for Woosa. So you can see the lineups there. The dead zone's basically going to be the main pivotal play. He's playing over here and basically trying to do as much damage for Cplay as possible. And I think overall that's the tactic from Cplay. See what Woosa can actually do. That you can bring the fight to us. We're going to sit back. We're going to let the 416 get the damage in, and you're going to really get destroyed. As you know, 320 damage when you only have 1.1k HP to play with in total. That's a lot of damage, and obviously you can hit up 25% more, so you can really start hitting up towards the 400 damage mark, and that's real trouble. That's 40% HP off an AMX 3090. But at least Woosa can actually flank around pretty quickly. The AMX 3090, the FKK Schnitzel, finally going to be joining QQ up there, as QQ did take this position. So basically just a switch around. FKK Schnitzel takes the lower road, QQ takes the higher road, and basically can support each other.
And I'm keeping my eyes on the dead zone. He is firing towards that direction, but obviously nothing connecting thus far. But outside of that, I'm not seeing a great deal of movement from Cplay here. They've kind of hunkered down, and they seem really content with this. So there we go. Dr. Tour does pull out of the Lux, and we are seeing the fire coming in support from the dead zone. Dr. Tour seems as though he's going to handle it quite well himself. Until then, Schnitzel showing a little bit of the game there, knowing that he's now over towards that side. And the dead zone's turret, I can imagine, will be permanently turned towards here. As we saw the damage that can come from a team getting into that position a little early from the south, especially when it was calm and it was completely unspotted. But all in all, is there enough to make a push, do you think, between these two? Because generally I'm used to seeing this now being either a push or a draw here. So do you think this could be a draw out? Yeah,
generally, you know, when you don't see the quick aggression, or one of the teams don't see they can be in a 5 versus 4 or 3 versus 4, any kind of, you know, advantage for your team, then it's hard to push. But Woosa do look like they want to find something. FKK Schnitzel's been roaming. The Lux has gone forwards. It's kind of an interesting movement from them. As they are 1-0 down, they do actually need to get a win in here. Third battle in, obviously, of a best of 5. So, you know, one more draw and you're getting into dangerous territory. Obviously, they're still pretty safe for this point, but they do need to start thinking about getting a win. And I think Cliff is certainly one of the maps where they can actually look for it. But QQ is now out of position in terms of, you know, if Cplay decide to push straight across, because he's so far out, and FKK Schnitzel also out of position slightly. Yes, he'll be able to support these guys here, but the AMX 3090's accuracy isn't the best in the world, so maybe only hit 3 or 4 shells out of 6. So it would really be a tank out of the game, and QQ would make the second one. So it would be 5 versus 3, or at least 4 versus 3, because the dead zone is obviously quite far away from his team. But the Lux definitely looking for the cap, and also just generally trying to find some information. Where is the dead zone? Where is Trevez? Where is all the tier 1s? And does that really give us any opportunity if we do find any of them?
Yeah, the dead zone certainly adjusting around to try and keep in mind where that tier 1 was, but it was DeKills or to pick up the kill in the end. Trying to find out where this man is, actually. There we go. The T69 just keeping eyes back towards the cap. So certainly aware of the weakness then of the west flank being pushed, but it got controlled towards the later half of that. So all in all, we finally see the dead zone actually moving up with the rest of Cplay. I'm kind of hoping this isn't just a garbage push time, you know, once it gets down to that minute marker. 3 minutes and 30 left on the board. Still enough time to make something happen, but interested to see where they play this 4-1-6. You know, Virtus Pro just push with it pretty much. They don't really have it in a passive position too long. They're happy to get involved, and solid parking then from the dead zone. It's using the rock to stop, but it looks like we're seeing that split going through here. The 2 1390s down the side. I'm not sure if they'll fully commit, but it didn't work out well for the last team who tried this.
Yeah, but 3 minutes and 7 seconds, it's not garbage time. They can actually still win this one. So indeed, Cplay going for the aggression, 2 MX 3090s. This has worked only 50% of the time. Will this actually put up to 66%? Seek goes down, but that's information there for Woosa, and they did get QQ back into kind of a decent position. You can see FKK Schnitzel is trying to get into also a decent position, but we do see the push onto the dead zone.
Yeah, we are seeing the push beginning, and actually it's a counter push coming out from Woosa as well. Nervax is now in trouble. He's going to be focused down originally. Look at Stefan moving straight in. Oh, gone in a second. And as soon as those 1390 split, there was the push from Woosa. Smart read, and Ruster and Hacky now pretty much surrounded. They've come and switched position, and it's not gone well. Hacky's low, Ruster's low, and they're going to be punished.
Really going down at this point. FKK Schnitzel does find 466 damage, but look at Hacky, he's fighting.
Hacky is giving it everything he can. He's taken down Schnitzel, but now 3v4 still. The HP pool drastically on the side of Woosa. Hacky trying to find LD Nexus up on the top of the hill. First shells coming in, but will it be enough? That's from the Killzor on the back there, now on reload. He could be hunted down by Stefan, which I believe is what's happening. Look at that. The barrel just kind of towering down above him, but he's going to find a little bit of cover, focus the fire elsewhere, and see if he can find some support. Ruster is pretty much on the run at the moment. He's not wanting to get involved in this. He's got 3 shells to make. Hacky backing away as well, but he's being chased down by LD Nexus and QQ. They're splitting off. LD Nexus focusing towards Hacky and the other towards the other tank. And here we go. LD Nexus moving in. Hacky goes down. And this has gone terribly wrong. The Killzor follows. And Ruster, who tried to make a run, has just been smashed to pieces as QQ slides almost off the map. And now just Trevez stands after the absolute massacre of Cplay, and I'll be amazed if he can sit this one out.
He might just be able to, but
1 minute 10.
1 minute 10 seconds. Commandant is going for the cap. One of them won't be enough. They'll need at least 2 in the cap to actually get this one done. So Trevez could reset this if he gets extraordinarily lucky, but it will be very, very hard. So it does look like Cplay does lose this one out to Woosa, who definitely look like the stronger team, and from the north, you know, pushing in that 3-minute mark just gave Woosa every kind of opportunity they needed to actually push in to win this one. But it was a hard-fought battle. Just that initial exchange onto the dead zone definitely made it the kind of odds in the favor of Woosa for sure. That 4 and 6 doing absolutely no damage at all. Trevez does get spotted, and he will go down.
I'm waiting. There we go. Stefan claims the final shot, and there we have it. Woosa pick up the map, and I want us to kind of talk about what we saw then and how it went down, because I think there was quite a few factors to what actually happened. It was like a push and pull game. So take me through what happened. You know, as soon as those 1390s went on a split, you know, that tier 1 just getting that information caused such a chain of events then.
Yeah, Zeke was in the perfect position, 100%. But generally the push, so basically what happens with that push of the 2 MX-39s behind the side, you're basically trying to find the back or the side of the other team.
Yeah.
But if the other team isn't actually there, then that push is completely useless. If the other team's pushing into your, you know, obviously weakened side because you sent 2 combat tanks around, then what is the point in that? You're going 5 versus 4. The kills are also because he is in that kind of ledge area. Yes, okay, he's going to be able to provide a little bit of support, but he's not going to be there with the HP of his tanks. In a T69, 1,350 HP would have been a lot for the dead zone because he was eliminated from the battle immediately. I can actually check the damage he did there. Indeed, doing a completely useless 0 damage in the 416. So basically, you know, once dead zone went down, Cplay was struggling to get back into the game. Yes, the 2 MX-1390 Hacky Ruster did actually get into the middle, but that's not where they wanted to.
It was way too late.
They flanked around to go to the same position they were before. So it was a 3 versus 5, and then it was 4 versus 3, but still it went down and down and down until, you know, Cplay didn't have any HP to play with anymore, and then it was really a matter of time before Woosa won it.
And credit to Woosa for actually realizing when to make that push and actually all going together, all really committing in, you know, reading the play well. And there we have it. So it's all tied up, all even now between these two. You know, Cplay tried something then at least. I still want to point that out. They actually did go for a play. Didn't work out, however. But hopefully now going into Ruinberg, we could see something a little better executed. You know, that was kind of similar to what the fall or the fault was in the previous time we saw that 1390 split, and it's like they only watched half of the the VOD. It's like they went, oh, that's a really good idea, just leave it there, and didn't see the outcome because it kind of went down the same way. But we are now seeing these teams getting their tank lineups in, and they're looking pretty heavy on this one.
Yeah, they really are picking those 5100s in the IS3. Last time Cplay played Ruinberg, they actually won it, so I think they can be pretty confident, but Ruinberg's one of those maps where I don't think we have a particularly good team on it. Even Virtus Pro, I think, kind of...
They're okay,
but they can still get caught out. It's a little bit of a strange one, I have to say. Not a massive fan of Ruinberg, also have to say that. Cplay AMX 5100, IS3, AMX 3090 for Cplay. Obviously, alongside those two tier 1s. And for Woosa, they've gone pretty much all heavy. Actually, they've gone for the same side lineup as Cplay, triple 5100, AMX 3090, IS3 double tier 1. So a mirrored lineup from both teams. You don't often see that on Ruinberg, but I think it's a pretty decent one.
Yeah, it certainly looks pretty good, and we might find out if one team's going to actually edge ahead from the other. We're tied up all even. Let's find out who might take the advantage here on Ruinberg. And welcome into Ruinberg. Currently the 4th map out of 5. And let's see who will walk away with the advantage. Currently Cplay sitting on 1 point. Woosa on 1 point. And maybe this time it'll be a 2-1. But what are we seeing from the very start here?
LD next in the MX 3090 is basically just going straight for the F-Road. The rest of the tanks are heading up towards the village as well. Stefan in the middle in that slow IS3. He's going to be slightly late to the party, but he will be there. And when he is, he'll be devastating. And for Cplay, also heading towards the eastern village. That's the standard tactic from the northern area. I think the only really viable one if you want to go for a win. And it's actually easier from the north, in my opinion, to play in this eastern village of Ruinberg. But it's also pretty tricky if you lose the kind of zero line and you let the other team flank around. That's basically the problem Cplay will have. But we can see here, Ruster is kind of sitting down, hull down. And basically, LD next even sitting down, hold down. He's just going to be there to support the flank. But if Cplay just goes straight into the tanks of Woosa, he's going to be out of position for sure.
And Cplay are certainly looking fairly aggressive. They've actually crossed over in towards enemy territory, and here comes the fire straight away. Dead Zone moving in with Hacky. Ruster on the flank. They found Schnitzel. Fire comes in from the side, though. Ruster's been found by Commandante. He could go down straight away. Dead Zone gets tracked. This is going to be a quick battle regardless. Even fire comes through. Finally, the Dead Zone takes down the looks. First blood goes down towards Cplay, but can they follow it up now? Schnitzel is a one-shot. Commandante is low, but the damage spread towards Cplay is phenomenal. They are down drastically here.
Huge damage. That's what happens when you push into tanks that are waiting in the perfect position.
Yeah, but Stefan's gone into a little bit of a bottleneck there. He gets caught out by Hacky in the dead zone. Fire coming in from the two tanks, finally finished off by Hacky. But Commandante round on the side. Hacky's a one-shot, but he cannot get it off. Nervax and Ruster supporting on the flank. But these two are low. They can't withstand all of these tanks now. Commandante is down to a whisker. And even the tier 1 giving it a go. Treves could have almost done the job. Finally, he gets taken out in the dead zone. Find Schnitzel, but this game is very, very close here. This is unbelievable.
Nervax doing such a great job. His QQ's also gone down very low. I think he's also on readout, as is Nervax. So QQ having to get out of that position. Commandante down to 16 HP. Cplay's aggression so far paying off, but look at LD Nexus. 1.1k HP. When is he going to get into this battle? He's trying to get there just in time. He's going to have to get the contend with the Killzone in that IS3. That's the problem there for Woosa.
Yeah, first tank on the scene is the Killzone, but he's taken one from the side. That's a big chunk. Taken away, 3-1-5. His focus is Commandante first of all. Commandante goes down, the Killzone claims it. But now here comes LD Nexus. Replies with one towards Hacky, evens up the scoreboard. Pretty much a 3v3, 2v3 mainly, but LD Nexus looks like he wants another. Nervax goes down. That's 2 in a row for Nexus. Can he find one more? The dead zone is looking slightly weak now. Looking a possibility, but where is QQ? QQ battling now with the Killzone. He's fallen, and now it's all on LD Nexus. He's got 2 more tanks to find. He's exchanging with the Killzone. The dead zone is not perfect, but he's trying still, but he's been caught. He's been held and taken down, and just Sheesh left alive. Cplay holding on again.
Look at this HP they have, though.
Unbelievable.
218
Unbelievable.
HP. The kills are 292. You got to consider the fact that QQ, FKK Schnitzel, Commandante, average of 300 damage from that gun. LD Nelty and Stefan 390. So every single tank could one-shot these 3 tanks left for Cplay. So the skin of the teeth, just absolutely unbelievable play from Cplay, and you must admit getting a little bit lucky as the kills does find Seeker on the move, breaking the score 2-1 for the Cplay side. And in quite some spectacular fashion, I have to say that.
We need to talk through what happened there, because it seemed to be over in a second for us, but I bet it felt like a lifetime for those guys, because Cplay did go for the aggressive start. They pushed straight in for the village. They went over the main line, pretty much, or over the, you know, the kind of main road down the center. Simple as that. And then they kept going a little. They were happy taking on Commandante straight away. They took him really low. But then obviously all the other bits of fire came into effect. There were so many crossfires in position that they got taken so damn low, but then they just about evened it up. How did that all go down for them?
It was really a game of mathematics. Because they went 5 versus 4, they had more HP and more firepower. And despite the fact that they played very dubiously, I think the execution was pretty bad from Cplay.
It was shaky.
They lost a lot of HP. But Stefan made the first mistake, overextending a little bit. FKK Schnitz also got focused down, only doing 993 damage in that whole battle. So despite some bad execution by Cplay, it does prove the point once again that if you have more tanks than the other team and you push in, you're almost always going to win. And LD Nexus being in the fight a little bit late, basically trying to clean up the other team, but because he missed, I think, 3 shots there, he actually lost the game, because he could have one-shot to Killzor, and he could have one-shot Nervax there. So he was like...
No pressure, but still.
But he missed those 3 shots, and that's the nature of the game, of course, so he can't kick himself too much. But, you know, you just have to hit them at the end of the day if you don't want to win. And I think what basically Woosa could have done, just put LD Nexus into the village and just fight him out there. He'll have at least 2 reloads within that engagement, and with those 2 reloads, he'll also have the HP to go alongside. He could have evened it 100%, so just put more tanks in the game and it would have been okay.
But, you know, I look back to how Cplay have been playing so far. They've done it here again. You know, they tried to do it on Cliff. It didn't really work out. You know, those 30-90 splitting didn't really pay off in their favor. Woosa read it like a book, and there's your counterplay. But Cplay are trying strategies out. They are trying things, at least. And this was the one thing that impressed me about them at the start of this season, was the fact that they can constantly try and push things. They're not afraid of getting in their faces eventually. They may be a little slow on some maps. Surprisingly, some of the city ones as well, like Ensk, they're a little slower than others to make their full commitment. But they do go for it. And now Steps being the final map between these two, it could still be drawn up if Woosa do pick this one up, obviously, as a victory. Anything less will be a loss and a victory for Cplay. But Cplay, I haven't seen them doing too many strategies, let's say, on this map, because this map is quite hard to come up with something, you know, completely well-rounded. It's such an open canvas that one counter could be completely undoing your complete plan. But is there something we could see from them, or are they just going to go for that heavy lineup to lock it down?
If I was Cplay, unlike TCM Game, we've already made that mistake a couple of times, I would just go for the heavy lineup and lock it down. Not too heavy. I think double T32 will cover it, alongside maybe a Pershing and 2 MX-1390s, of course, with the 2 tier 1s as well. You know, you have enough speed, firepower, and damage to both stay well, and you know, keep defensive.
You got to sustain there, yeah.
Exactly, and use the MX-1390s in case the other team tries to go for a cap, and you need to get from A to B very quickly. So you got these things going around in your head. So far, it looks like Cplay is kind of taking that advice. So far, with an IS-3, a T-32 play by Killzor and Hacky respectively, double T-69 from the Dead Zone, and Nervax, and of course Ruster playing that MX-1390 last tank for them. Dr. Tour, obviously a tier 1 player, so going to be playing a tier 1.
Still not sold by the IS-3 on this map.
No, it's not worked so far, to be honest. It's only worked once.
Yeah.
Triple MX-1390, double T-69, double tier 1, so completely standard lineup for Woosa at least. But at least with the IS-3, you have more firepower and HP, which is, if you just want to camp and stay there, it can be okay. As long as you keep your cap safe, it's just about alright.
I don't like it on these open maps. It just doesn't sit right in my brain. It's like seeing it on Prokhorovka. It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
You're not meant to be here. It kind of baffles me a little bit to see it there. But still, you know, it's in the hands of Killzor, who's played quite nicely so far. Maybe not, you know, the best performance he's ever had, but he's still certainly holding his own. So maybe see it coming into effect into this one. But as I said, let's just make sure it's clear in your minds. If Woosa win this game, we draw. Anything less, so if they draw the map out or lose it, they're out anyway. So they have to go for the victory here. No two ways about it. So guys, let's get ourselves ready for the 5th and final map, Steps. So, welcome into the 5th and final map. Steps coming up, currently set 2-1 in favour of Cplay. Woosa looking for the victory here to draw it or even at least walk away with 1 point. So, Woosa will be in the south in blue, in the north in red at Cplay. Take us into what we're seeing.
Woosa basically has to play smart and take as little damage as possible. They don't need to do a lot of damage, but taking as little so they can actually go for the cap, which I think is probably the best job for them. QQ is going to be taking a defensive stance, looking for Cplay to come up the right side, the trench side. The rest of the team pretty much filtering over towards the 1-2-3 line. And for Cplay, pretty much the standard tactic. Remember, Cplay 2-1 up in a best of 5, 5th map. All they have to do is draw it out, and they do bring those 3 points home with them. And all Woosa can hope for right now is 1 point. And that's really what they have going for them. So, not a great start here for Woosa. I think they would want to beat Cplay, but they still have an opportunity, at least bring something back and don't make this play day a complete waste of time for them. I keep trying to hit a couple of shells, but Seek still in that corner alongside QQ supporting him. So, I don't see what Woosa can really do. As I said, the cap is their only option because of the kind of HP Cplay has and the kind of firepower they have to play around with.
Yeah.
So the cap, you don't need firepower or HP, you can just sit in it and wait until it goes over. But then again, because of Cplay's kind of defensive stance, it's going to make it extremely hard to cap.
It really will, and I don't think we're going to see much moving out from Cplay from here. They're pretty much happy where they are, and I don't blame them. They've done the hard work. They don't need to be too worried from now. Rusta in that lovely spot again. He does love it up there, so he'll constantly be in that position. Dead zone, playing the T69 from a little further back, joined by Nervax, and there we have it. Pretty much all these guys just locking it down. They have 8 minutes to pretty much weather the storm. Schnitzel will be coming around, maybe going to try and get some pot shots on, but he has been spotted out by Cplay, so he needs to be a little careful here. He doesn't get taken down too early on.
Just doing some spotting, but that's the obvious push location from Woosa, so Cplay can easily predict that, and they've got the I3 there just to deal with that one. But the I3 kind of is the weak link for Cplay if Brawl does happen, because first of all, it gets Amarak very easily. Yes, no, I thought the kills would be taking the kind of wet Amarak, but he's not. He's gone for full DPS lineup equipment there with the vertical stabilizer. Improved ventilation, of course, the rammer there for the 10% reload time. So he could get Amarak very easily indeed. And also his turret returns pretty slowly. So just go for the IS3, shoot the front of it, and you'll actually have a good chance of taking it down very rapidly. But the kills are peaking a little bit more, and that's basically Cplay's plan. Keep on peaking, know where Woosa is as much as possible, and then just reverse back and look for another angle, so you kind of just get the whole map spread out in a very short amount of time. But again, it's going to be hard for them to really find Woosa if they're being very quick with the MX 1390s. Stefan, Commandante heading back towards Seek and QK and QQ even. So another option for Woosa. They look for the north, now they're looking for the south. That's basically going to be hard for them though, because as I said before, Cplay, plenty of firepower, plenty of damage to play around with. The kills are again spotting out, but not spotting anything, so LD Nexus can be pretty safe, but you don't need to spot anything to know you're spotted. Obviously you get the Sixth Sense kind of bulb, which makes it a very, very obvious there's a team in close proximity, especially considering a tier 1 doesn't have the greatest view range in the world.
No, and I kind of feel bad for Woosa. If this was going to be the final map, it's probably the least one you'd want in the world. It's so hard to make anything happen if a team's playing like this. You can pretty much play passively the whole time around. So I'm kind of hoping that they can find a way through here. It's not exactly the easiest one to have to deal with, but still, we'll see what they can do. Cplay happy to hunker down, and Joe, the one thing I was going to ask you about is, why didn't they focus maybe a tier 1 out towards, the hills we occasionally see them placing one? If they do need to keep hold of this information, and the cap was the main objective, I'm surprised we didn't see maybe a tier 1 towards this sort of area. Is this not something that they maybe could have worked with rather than playing this very passive game, or is that just maybe wasting a tier 1?
It's probably just wasting a tier 1 because they already know that Woosa's going to be putting tanks there. And basically, if Woosa finds that tier 1, Cplay's still not going to be able to do any damage against the the tanks are spot it and take it down, because you can see how much cover there is. So the Cplay would lose a tier 1 for basically nothing. The information would be relatively outdated by the time Cplay can actually use it, and if they actually want to use it, because the AMX-3090 is very fast. But this looks like the move from Woosa, coming around with most of their tanks, 3 of their firepower tanks, 2 coming from the north, and they're basically going to use the tanks from the north to distract Woosa, keep their turrets in that location, and then come from 2 angles at the same time. But again, it's going to be very hard for them. Only thing I can see Play losing it this way is if they actually don't have tanks covering each other off and don't have the line of sight on each other.
Well, Haki and the Killsaw will be sent back to more of the aggressive position to deal with the back flank there. Comandante takes 1, but we are seeing the other 3 members appearing upon the horizon over towards the north, and this has distracted a good amount of Cplay. And here comes the main move of those 1390s going head first into Nervax in the dead zone. QQ takes 1, takes 2. The dead zone is the focus coming out from Woosa. Dead zone going low, 953 damage done. Nervax takes up some, but the Killsaw finds LD Nexus, and we are seeing the base race in action again. Nervax is in trouble. He is about to go down. 1 more shell will do the job. Schnitzel claims it, and now Ruster in the action. QQ should be going down any second now, but he's been able to stay alive just a couple seconds longer, and finally Ruster will find him. But this is a very, very close game, and that cap is looking fairly good for Woosa right now, until just then Ruster stands out and does the job, but Stefan finally shuts him down. But this is now turned on its head, and I think Woosa are pretty much over.
The dead zone has to be careful. He's on low HP. The Killsaw still sitting pretty in that IS-3, just comes charging in, doesn't take anyone down, but he doesn't have to. Only the dead zone distracts him, and the Killsaw will go for that cap.
Yeah, the Killsaw comes around. The Lux is the target. Doesn't land it once. This could be trouble. The cap is still slightly further ahead for Woosa here, and the Lux sitting down, sitting comfortably. The Killsaw ignoring him for a little bit of time, maybe looking to do the job towards the other side. Treves is there. Comandante is now taking a bit of fire. Haki is going 1v1 there. 31 seconds left on the board. Comandante needs to get this done, and he's done it. Now 2v1. The Killsaw needs to clutch this. They do have the cap going, but this has got a little bit close here.
Yeah, it certainly has. Cplay haven't used their tanks as best as they can. The Killsaw's been kind of out on a limb, but 18 seconds left for the Stefan to actually stop this one. It's only going to be 1 tank in there. I believe it's Treves, as he does actually scamper out. So it's not going to be the cap for Cplay at least. So Comandante and Stefan will be chasing a ghost at this point in time. And if Treves can get out of there, it's going to be no tier 1 tank down. But he has been spotted. But all he has to do is basically waste time, keep the Woosa players spotted, and keep them distracted.
He doesn't know where they are right now, though. This could be a little bit of trouble. Treves does take a few. Still not fully spotting these guys out. He knows where the... finally, Stefan appears. A little bit of caution here needs to be taken. The Killsaw keeping eyes on. Remember, Woosa cannot walk away with just a draw. They need to get everything done in this. They must take out the 3 players or get that cap, up to them. But here we go on the cross. Nice work from the Killsaw. Lands the shell towards Stefan, and now Stefan taking on Treves. It should be an easy kill, or an easy ram at least. There we go. Stefan will pick it up, and actually the Killsaw moving in for this one. And to be fair, Comandante and Stefan are both fairly low.
Yeah, they're both one-shots, 210. That's really that's really a one-shot for an IS-3's BL9. So there's going to have to be some fantastic focus fire. That BL9 can do about 960 damage, which is enough if they land all full shells and penetrate it. But this is the perfect situation for the Killsaw, because the BL9, the IS-3 has so much HP, and the T69 has only 250 penetration with heat. The Killsaw can just absorb and absorb and absorb damage. I think you'll only be able to penetrate maybe 2, if you're lucky, 3 shells out of 4, and there just won't be enough. Commandante does go forwards left. It's going to be Stefan there. It's from support, and this is a last-ditch attempt from Woosa, and also a bounce. Such a lucky play from Commandante from the Killsaw onto Commandante, but Stefan is basically the main damage dealer.
He's only spotted Commandante as well to Killsaw.
Yeah. He only knows where 1 is, and Stefan has to basically pick his fight perfectly.
Well, the shell from Commandante did not land. Stefan is getting very close, finally gets spotted, turns around. The Killsaw's turret is now focused towards him. 2v1, the Killsaw needs to land these shells, and Stefan toying with this. They still have to pick up that tier 1 as well. They cannot go for the draw. It doesn't connect either. Stefan still stands. The Killsaw takes another. 20 seconds left. Another will connect. 700 HP now standing. My god, this is going to be close. Finally, the Killzor takes down Stefan, but now 1v1 pretty much. Dr. Tour is also alive. 10 seconds left. I don't think there's enough time for Commandante to find both, and I think he knows that.
Why is Woosa not pushed in at least onto the Killzor with Commandante? Maybe they wanted to keep him alive in case the Killzor actually provided distraction, but that's it. Game over. Cplay draws it out, and at the same time, it gets that win.
Yeah, pretty much how it works out. Cplay then just pretty much just couldn't lose.
No.
There was an opportunity for it to kind of turn around the other way, but it wasn't so. But I think all in all, Cplay played a better game than Woosa did.
For sure.
Every step of the way, they were aggressive when necessary. They were smart about it. They didn't just haphazardly rush in, maybe a little on cliff, but I think that was a short-sighted play that's caught out a lot of teams with those 1390s. All in all, I think that's a fairly competent performance from them.
Yeah, I think apart from a couple of player skill issues, they couldn't have really done it much better. What I really loved about that was they had the two AMX 1390s to the north, but that wasn't the whole plan. The third AMX 1390 actually joined them, so it was really like a well kind of put together tapestry from Woosa, and 2.6k damage from Stefan and that T69. We don't see that a lot. That's probably at least 3 or perhaps even 4 reloads gone down for him. So fantastic 3 frags along with it. And apart from the fact that Cplay had more HP, basically, there was nothing that Woosa could have done better. They just didn't have the HP, didn't have the firepower to deal with the final tank, the Killzor and the IS-3. And I think the Killzor could have done a better job. He should have been in the fight a little bit more. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Cplay definitely didn't look that good, but all they had to do was draw it out, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, actually, and let's have a little look back at that one. And you can see here, the initial move coming out from these guys, it wasn't a bad idea from Woosa, but then again, it wasn't great execution coming out. Cplay were in the better spot, but then again, Woosa had to force their hand. You can see Russ doing a great job, good focus fire, taking down Schnitzel there, and then Stefan avenging immediately. But still, already at this situation, a couple of seconds into the main brawl, that's 4 tanks down there for Woosa. That was a big bit of damage caused, and it just... They just didn't have the focus fire towards the right targets at times. They looked a little bit kind of dispersed, and yes, obviously you're moving into a team that's turtled down that know that they just have to, at minimum, draw rather than win. So you're always going to be in a hard predicament. But then I look at teams like Virtus Pro who constantly force the hands of teams who are happy to go, well, screw this, we're not going to rush Virtus Pro, we're going to turtle down here. They can always break that. So there's always the possibility to break it. It's just never easy. And Woosa, played valiantly, but just not quite well enough, I feel, in that one. So, all in all, congratulations to Cplay. They'll be getting the points under their belt, and I'm pretty sure they'll actually move up in the rankings off the back of that, but we'll check that out a little later on. But you guys at home obviously did have your votes coming through to us during that game, and Melly, how did it look? Did the people at home get it right?
Well, at first they voted all for Cplay with around 70%.
So at the start they knew?
But then it dropped during the game, so
wow.
It was around 54% maybe then for Cplay. But now with them being in the last map right now, since we're having this delay, they start again voting for Cplay. So they got it right eventually.
Yeah,
it wasn't an easy guess. If you look at the win-loss ratio, it's pretty much the same. They all have like 29% wins during the season already, and I don't know, with Cplay having 70-something and Woosa more draws, so 50.
They're very equal teams on results-wise, at least. They've had a very similar kind of run in the season so far, I feel. So it is hard to break out on paper between the two. It's more what you watch in the game, I feel. And I think the guys at home kind of worked out in the end then who's better. But how can people get involved at home with more of the votes, and obviously with Twitter as well?
Just head over to facebook.com/WGL, like our page, of course, become part of our network, and allow us to keep you updated during the season about news, about challenges, about sweepstakes, where you guys can grab awesome stuff, and of course participate in our challenges. We're having around 3 challenges per match day. It's like a fixed amount of match challenges at least. It only can get more during the match day, so where you only have to guess the exact right scoreline of the current matchup and win bonus codes. And the next thing is Twitter, of course. Join our Twitter network, and we will keep you updated during the matches. So even if you're missing a stream because, I don't know, reasons, we will keep you updated during the matches, and you won't miss any single action going on here in the studios, on the servers. And of course, you will get news and notification via Twitter as well. And of course, don't forget to follow us on Twitch. It's very important since you get a little pop-up on the Twitch page if you're there when we're going live. And of course, you get an email, and you can't miss that. That's not working. You can't miss us when you're following us on Twitch. Exactly. And of course, use the hashtag WGLEU on Twitter to communicate with us. And we love reading from you. I have a very nice tweet, and it's gone in first place. But it was something like Dave tweeted us, oh, here it is. I love that that pro players can make mistakes too. Makes me feel like a better noob. We love reading such stuff, so just keep us updated what's on your mind.
It is pretty cool hearing from you guys at home, and yeah, the best thing is that when you do see a pro player make mistakes, you're like, I kind of did that as well.
Or you're like, I could do better.
There are moments you're like, how did they miss that?
Yeah.
Like, I land that every time, you know. But then again, you know, you add on the pressure to them, and then you're like, okay, maybe I get it. But there are a couple of moments where you just sit there and giggle for a little while. It's always good. It's always good to make them human again and bring them back down to earth. But anyway, 1 game down, 2 to go. Next game up will be Suba up against Schoolbus. A great game. You get to see Schoolbus, who recently suffered a loss, but hopefully they can bounce back. And Isuba, who've been kind of slowly but surely proving themselves to be an improving team. But can they do it against, well, the Schoolbus Giants? It's a bit of a tough game, but do stay tuned because we'll be back in 5.